Ah, oh, that's hot. That's hot.
I'm the Harem reviewer. I review it so you don't have to. Today we're going to be taking a look at Infinity War, or as the Japanese like to call it, Infinite Stratos. Judging by Mal's score, it doesn't seem like a lot of people enjoy this series. But then again, Mal can be really stupid. I mean, CanoCone has a 6.4 on the site, which is just offensive. I watched Stratos way back in 2015 and remembered enjoying it quite a bit. Now that was a long time ago, so I'm sure my opinion is going to change and probably not for the better. That being said, I have a feeling I'm still going to like the series, but there's only one way to find out. So I guess without further ado, let's get started, gamers.
Ass!
Let's get this out of the way quickly. The story in Stratos sucks snot out of a llama's butt crack. Even the people that like the series don't seem to care for the plot at all. Now obviously there are going to be people that genuinely enjoy the plot in Stratos, and that's perfectly fine. However, from what I can tell, it seems that a majority of fans only like the series for its characters and fan service moments. Very few people seem to give a shit about its story, and there's a reason for that. So Infinite Stratos takes place in a world where exoskeleton mechs, also known as ISs, have been created and can be piloted by people, or more specifically, just women. However, there has been one Chad who managed to operate one of them, and that of course is our main character Ichika, and no, not that one. So Ichika, along with everyone else who can pilot these mechs, go to an academy and learn how to become better pilots. During their time here, they fight each other in their ISs, and also fight against the bad guys who randomly show up. The bad guys are part of an evil organization who want to steal the school's ISs and use them to conquer the world, I think. I honestly don't know, because I stopped caring about the plot a couple episodes in. After that, my brain just sorta turned off for the remainder of the run. I'm only guessing this because ISs are banned from military use because they're too powerful and would destroy cities within minutes. But then again, I'm sure atomic bombs already do that, so why aren't they banned? Also, if they can't be used in wars, then what's the point of them? I guess they could make a new sport called IS where you watch people fight each other in them. I don't really know, and I honestly don't give much of a shit anyway. If I'm missing something, which I probably am, then as always, you can shit on me in the comment section.
I got the Lewis shoes dirty, goddamn!
Anyway, let's talk about how the series is structured. So season 1 follows a typical harem formula that you've seen plenty of times before. During the first half of the season, new girls get introduced about every episode or so, and of course they all end up wanting to suck Ichika's pee-pee. Some characters already like him from the start, some like him shortly after, and some don't like him, but then fall for him once they've lost to him in an IS battle. Again, nothing you've never seen before. This is very typical harem stuff.
I like men.
One complaint about this that I have is that it's sorta repetitive, and I don't mean the formula itself.
Pussy!
Here's the main heroine, Hoki. She's Ichika's childhood friend, she hasn't seen him in years, and she's also a tsundere. Now here's Lynn, who is also Ichika's childhood friend, also hasn't seen him in years, and is also a tsundere. Yeah, so Lynn is basically just a less bitchy version of Hoki, and because of this, she's one of, if not the most forgettable character in the show. There are obviously differences between the two of them. It's not like she's literally just a clone of her. Lynn came from China, and she also used to run a restaurant with her family in Japan. Reminds me of a much better character that I've already talked about. As for Hoki, she enjoys kendo and also dislikes her sister for numerous reasons. Her sister Tabane was the creator of the ISs, so she's always compared to her and seen as just Tabane's little sister. Also, Tabane first showed off the ISs on the day that Hoki was supposed to enter a kendo tournament where if she won, she would become Ichika's girlfriend. But since Tabane was showing off the ISs that day, Hoki was taken out for her own protection because I guess they thought someone was going to attack her or something. But yeah, there are differences between them, but there's also enough similarities too. I wouldn't be bringing up this issue, but the same applies for Alcott and Laura. Alcott comes from Britain and is seen as one of the best pilots in the school during the first couple episodes. She doesn't like Ichika at first because he's weak, and also jealous because of the amount of attention he's been getting. She challenges Ichika at the end of the first episode. She fights him and barely manages to win, only because Ichika fucked up since he's kinda dumb. She was so surprised by Ichika's skills during the fight that she of course fell for him and now desires his testicles. Now here's Laura, who comes from Germany and is an amazing IS pilot. She hates Ichika at first because she respects his sister and thinks he's too weak. Eventually he ends up fighting her and manages to win. After that, she was impressed by his skills of using an IS, so now she wants to fuck him. Now I know I left out a good amount of details about Laura and even her fight against Ichika too. The fight is completely different from Alcott's, but the end result of Laura falling for Ichika is still the same. The point is that there are clear differences between these characters, but I can't ignore how similar some of these concepts are between them. And again, this is the second time the series does this. Is it a big problem? No, but I wouldn't say it's a small one either. As I was saying though, this is how season 1 is structured. It's a typical harem, but it's also divided into two main sections. The first of which is the dumb harem fan service moments, which is the best part of the show. Is it the best fan service moments in a harem? No, and far from it. However, they're still fun and entertaining. Usually after a fan service episode, the show switches and takes itself seriously. This is mainly just having the characters go in their ISs and either fight each other or, as mentioned, the bad guys. Now, most of the time, these scenes and episodes aren't that good. Sometimes something cool can happen and a fight can be somewhat entertaining, but that's usually not the case. A large majority of the fights aren't complex, last way too long, and aren't very enjoyable. It also doesn't help that all the fights are animated with really shitty CG, so that's distracting too. I just don't care for most of the fights, and the same goes for whenever the plot tries to progress. These moments and episodes aren't awful, they're just notably worse than the fan service ones. However, both season finales do suck. I can't ignore that. I did not give a flying fuck for what was going on during either of them. I was just bored and hoping for them to end. At least during season 1's finale, Ichika and Hoki were going to kiss. Emphasis on were, because as soon as they're about to kiss, all the other hot mamas come and stop them. It's really frustrating, but at the same time, I'm kinda glad they didn't kiss because Hoki fucking sucks. I'd rather have the anime or even series never end because I don't want Hoki to end up with Ichika because fuck her, and not literally. So that's how season 1 ends. There's a dumb fight, there's a fake out kiss, and that's it. Now as for season 2, well, it's sort of
Stop posting about Among Us!
People seem to dislike season 2 more, and at first I was sorta confused why. During my watch, I thought it was about the same as season 1 in terms of quality, both on my first and now second watch. However, after I let the series sink in, I started to realize some problems I had, which is something that normally doesn't happen. Season 2 starts right where season 1 left off, which isn't surprising. Ichika and his lady friends are still using their ISs and fighting against the bad guys. However, during this season, we find out that apparently the leader of the evil organization is Ichika's sister. So that's interesting. At least there's a connection between Ichika and the villains now. Although the problem with this is that the plot is dragged out for so goddamn long. This is due to the way the series is structured, since every other episode tends to be a fan service one.
I don't care that you broke your elbow.
Because of this, the plot gets extended much longer than it needed to be. And not only that, but it still feels like not a whole lot actually happened during this season. By the end of it, I was sorta like, oh, okay, I guess it's over. It's hard to know the details of the plot because, like I've said already, the plot blows. It's not interesting, it's way too serious for a harem show, and also overstays its welcome. I don't care for the story in Stratos at all, which is why episodes such as the season finales just end up being very boring. Besides the plot being ass and even worse than season 1's, there's actually a bigger issue. That being its characters, which are supposed to be the main appeal of the series. Well, I guess that wraps up the story section of the review. There isn't much to say about the plot besides it being uninteresting and boring. I guess the only thing to point out is that there's a bonus OVA titled World Purge, which is the last episode of the anime, although I'm sure it wasn't intended to be. This OVA is 45 minutes long, and it's overall alright. I think World Purge is actually a perfect representation for the series as a whole. Basically, the bad guys attack the school again, but this time all the main girls are trapped in some virtual reality dream thing. There they imagine themselves being fucked by a Chad version of Ichika, and these scenes might just be the best part of the anime. They're also stupid and fun, and I wish the rest of the anime was like this. However, there's more to this episode than just the dumb fan service harem scenes because they only take up about half of the episode. The other half centers around other characters fighting off the stinky villains, and it's really irritating. Basically, the first good scene of the episode we get is of Lynn, who is about to get her pussy eaten by a fake Ichika. But right before we see that happen, we switch to an action scene. And then we switch to see Alcott stream for a couple minutes, and then we switch back to another shitty fight in the real world. It's so jarring, repetitive, annoying, and I don't fucking care. Just let me relax and see these girls get fucked. Like, holy shit, no one wants to see this. Just give the fans what they want. Is that really so hard to do? But despite this episode being the most irritating part of the show, it's still fine. It's nothing bad or offensive. It's watchable. Alright, I think I've said everything I have to say about the plot though, so it's time to talk about its epic gamer cast of characters.
Come on, just one bite.
Oh, okay then. Just one bite.
Was that the bite of 87?
While the plot is atrocious, at least most of its cast is decent or at least likable. That being said, the cast definitely has its issues, and I've already gone over one of them. Like I've said, some characters share notably similar traits to each other, which makes them less distinct. Again, not a big problem, but clearly one that sorta bothers me. What is a problem, and one that's seen in a good amount of harems, is its main character. Ichika is not good. I wouldn't say the absolute worst harem protagonist, but I don't like him. Honestly, I was sorta fine with him at first, mostly in season 1, but then I just disliked him more and more as the series continued. I just got tired of seeing him be a big clueless pussy who doesn't want pussy. I'm fine with harem protagonists being stupid, but it gets very repetitive here.
You faggot.
I've said this plenty of times on my other videos, so there's not much to say about Ichika that I haven't already said. He's boring, generic, and lame. He sucks. Next. As for the girls, they're alright. Season 1 had 5 main girls, and Season 2 adds 2 more, which is pushing it. I wouldn't have a problem with adding more girls to Ichika's harem, but the thing is, none of the established girls get any development in Season 2. Once Season 1 ends, that's it for these characters. They stay the exact same, which is very disappointing. Now let me make one thing clear. Characters don't need to develop to continue to be good and likable. In Vampire, for example, the main cast basically stays the same during Season 2. The reason it's not a problem is because Season 2 barely had a plot. It was mainly made up of episodic stories that started and ended within the same episode. With Stratos though, that's not true. Stratos is a series that has a plot which progresses throughout its run. If you're going to structure a series like this, then it's kinda hard to excuse it from having a cast that doesn't develop much or at all. The only character that gets any sort of development is Kanzashi. She's very shy, doesn't like Ichika, and also has problems with her sister. But after a couple episodes, she falls in love with Ichika because, of course she does, and also manages to fix her relationship with her sister. That's really it though. Even her sister Tatanashi, who gets introduced in the season, doesn't develop much either. Although she is one of the most distinct characters, so I can't really complain. Anyway, the girls are decent, but a lot of them feel underused and had potential to grow, especially Lynn. But I guess it's about that time again. That's right, children of the corn. It's time for the Epic Chungus Waifu War, where we rank each girl from worst to greatest. Remember, my waifu wars are official, so if you disagree with me, then fuck you.
Number 8.
Hoki, no. Alright, you all knew this was coming. Hoki sucks doo-doo farts because she's a tsundere, she's a bitch, and I don't like her. As soon as the series started, I knew she was going to be worst girl, and guess what? I was right. It's been 6 years since she last saw Ichika, and as soon as she sees him again, she acts like there's a toothpick stuck in her pussy. Like seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? And more importantly, what the fuck is wrong with Ichika for liking her? You literally have an entire school full of wet-ass P-words and you decide to go after the worst possible one. Go fuck yourself, Ichika, and go fuck yourself, Hoki. I hope you both fall off a cliff, land in shit, and then explode because why not? Also, I haven't even mentioned the worst part yet. She's voiced by Satan, aka Monica Rial.
Kidding, am I? I'll show you kidding. I get it. I get it.
Number 7.
Shifuyu Oramura. Shifuyu is Ichika's sister, and she's okay. She's kinda mean, but also extremely strong and smart too. She was actually seen as the most powerful IS pilot for a while, which is pretty poggers. But yeah, honestly, not much to say. She's kinda hot, but not the hottest.
Number 6.
Ling Yin Huang. I've already gone over Lynn a bit earlier, but I'll repeat some of what I said. She's Ichika's second childhood friend and is mainly just a less obnoxious version of Hoki that also happens to be from Chinatown. She has no bobas, which is very unfortunate, but that's okay because I'm sure her pussy is very tight and warm.
Number 5.
Tatanashi Sarashiki. Tatanashi is the student council president and is so because she's the strongest pilot in the academy, or at least I think so. I don't fucking know. I was too busy staring at her tits most of the time. Tatanashi is very outgoing and likes to tease Ichika a lot. She also happens to be socially awkward with her sister too. There is one thing that does bother me about her, and it's really stupid too. Basically, she appears too much in season 2, which I know sounds really dumb. I just felt like she got way too much screen time that could have been spent centering around the main cast instead. This is especially so because, like I said, the other characters never got any sort of development in season 2. So this would have or should have helped that problem from being avoided. Anyway though, she's okay too. I'd suck on her hooters and bite the milk out of them.
1, 2, 3, 4. How many niggers are in my store?
Kanzashi Sarashiki. Kanzashi is Tatanashi's younger sister and she's smoking hot. She's very shy and awkward, which is a major turn on. Oh yeah. She's super duper smart and I'd like her to suck the sperm out of my ball sack.
Hey, pick up a tray, my lord.
Cecilia Alcott. Alright, poo-poo heads, we've made it to the top 3, and this spot goes to the English maiden Cecilia. She's from England and has the funny English accent. Honestly, Cecilia is the most disappointing character in the series. She started out as a fun, pompous character, but then just turned into a girl who liked Ichika. That being said, the same applies for Laura as well, but she's just a better Cecilia anyway. Cecilia is good, but she sorta lost what made her fun in the first couple episodes. Yeah. England is my city.
I got food.
Charlotte Dunos. Shout out to my French viewers. You guys might have a shit military, but your girls are very attractive. Charlotte is second best girl. She's very nice, cute, and likable. She used to lie and say she was a boy for a couple episodes, but it was obvious that wasn't true. Yeah. Charlotte can suck on my wee-wee any day. Laura Bodwig. Germany coochie for the win, my dudes. Laura is indeed best girl. She's really good at piloting an IS, and she's also a badass too. Before she came to the academy, her life kinda sucked though. Ever since she was a kid, she's been training with soldiers in order to become a super duper pooper soldier. Then the ISs were invented, they modified her body and kinda fucked it up, which is why she wears the funny eye patch over her eye. Also, this is kinda hard to tell, but she also likes Ichika too. She's best girl and she deserves to collect all of Ichika's spermy wormies because best girl should get what she wants.
Okay then. Now say ah.
Infinite Stratos doesn't look half bad actually, or at least half of it doesn't. The other half, or basically any scenes that have the ISs in them, look like poopy. Unsurprisingly, the ISs are mostly animated using CG models and they don't look good. They're too simplistic and lack a lot of detail to them. The CG looks very cheap and poor, but let's give credit where credit is due. Whenever the camera and the ISs are moving at a quick pace, it looks tolerable. However, when the camera isn't moving and zoomed in on the ISs, then they look really fucking bad. Stratos came out in 2011 and 2013, and Japan was and still is not particularly great at implementing CG in anime. Just look at the new Dragon Ball Super movie for example. At the time of this recording, the trailers that have been released look very underwhelming. The models don't look well and the animation seems very robotic. Now that being said, at least the movie is sticking with only one form of animation, that of course being CG. You see, the problem with Stratos and some other series is that they switch between 2D and 3D animation. Because of this, the change in style is so drastic, jarring, and mainly just distracting. The main reason CG is used in 2D animation is to animate scenes that would be easier and cheaper to make using CG. The problem is that CG also requires a shit ton of work in order to look decent. It's cheaper to use 3D instead of 2D animation, but it's more expensive to make something look good using 3D than it is with 2D, and that's sort of the main reason why anime doesn't typically have good CG. Due to a mixture of time, budget, and even just experience with the technology, CG has been very poor in anime. CG is mainly just a cheaper and easier way to animate a or multiple difficult scenes and shows. Now, like I was saying, let's give the series credit where credit is due. This was back in 2011 and 2013, so CG was still rather new for Japan. The fights themselves aren't, or at least most people don't consider them to be the main appeal of the series. The main appeal for a lot of fans are the ichi fan service moments, and those do look good. In fact, whenever there isn't any bad CG fights, the rest of the show looks genuinely solid. Now obviously it's nothing mind-blowing or anything, but for a harem, it's definitely above average. This is kinda why I'm not shitting on the poor use of CG. It's bad, don't get me wrong. It's very jarring, but if the fights were animated in 2D, I don't think I'd enjoy them that much more. Plus, the rest of the show looks really good, so I can't complain too much. Sure, the CG sucks, but everything else is well animated, character designs are good, it's colorful, yada yada, penis something. Another aspect of the show that actually surprised me was its soundtrack.
What the dog doing?
I listened to all of it since it was available on YouTube, and honestly, it's kinda good. It's basically like the animation. It's above average, but nothing amazing. The only thing that was disappointing about the soundtrack was its opening and ending songs. I listened to each of them once, thought they were fine, but always ended up skipping them. They aren't bad, but if I only listened to them once, then they aren't that good. I don't have the knowledge to talk about soundtracks in depth, so I'll just say that the music in Stratos is good. Besides the soundtrack, there's also the English dub, because subs are for big nose losers. The dub is overall alright, not great, but usually everyone seems to do a decent job. Usually.
Oh, sure. No problem. Come on, stand up.
The only thing that stood out in the dub were the fake accents for characters such as Cecilia, Laura, and Charlotte. They sound fine, but it's obvious that the actors aren't the correct nationality.
I'm Cecilia Alcott, England's representative contender, the one who scored highest
Hold on. Hold up.
Also, there's even some moments where they forget to use the accent too.
And he still hasn't regained consciousness yet.
This only happens a couple times, but when it does, it's pretty funny. The only bad thing about the dub is that Monica Rial voices Hoki, which is very nasty. Also, there's some cringe moments like this one.
And this is my IS, the mysterious lady. Remember the name, biatch.
What did you say, nigga?
Everyone, get out!
What the fuck?
Well, that was Infinite Stratos, and it was sort of a mixed bag. It's really difficult to give my overall thoughts, honestly. The characters and fan service scenes are enjoyable, but the serious battle-oriented ones aren't so good. And even then, the best aspects of the series aren't anything special. spread my ass. The first season is alright, but season 2 is a bit worse and it's kinda meh. Season 1 gets a 6.11 and season 2 gets a 5.73 out of 10 because let's go Brandon. I remembered enjoying the series quite a bit, but after rewatching it, it's clearly much worse than I remember. That being said, I still did enjoy season 1 and even then season 2 is still watchable. Damn! It just has notably lower moments, plus the lack of character development really dragged it down. But yeah, I am probably being way too nice with my scores, but at the very least I think people dislike the show a bit too much. Like, come on guys, season 2 isn't that bad. How is this ranked only slightly higher than goddamn Arrow Manga Sensei? So yeah, overall Infinite Stratos is sort of okay. If you can get past its glaring flaws, then you can get a fair amount of enjoyment out of the show, or at least for season 1. For season 2, probably not unless you really enjoyed the first season. Stratos gets a very, very light recommendation, and I'd only recommend it to those who are running out of harems to watch.
What you say?
Well, that was the anime, but as usual, it's time to take a look at the manga. Now, Stratos not only has one manga adaptation, but actually 2. The first of which totals at 5 volumes and is the one I'm going to be taking a look at. The second version released a year after the first manga ended and lasted a couple volumes longer. Now, I would like to read both of them, but unfortunately, the second version isn't completely dumped online. Because of that, I can't review something that isn't finished or not fully available. Like always, if the remaining 10 or so chapters get dumped online, then I might make a follow-up review on it. But for now, let's take a look at the first manga version of Stratos.
Meow?
Well, that sucked doo-doo farts. I honestly don't know what I was expecting from an Infinite Stratos manga that's only 26 chapters long. I knew it was most likely going to be the anime again, but still, I'm disappointed. This isn't just a manga version of the anime, or actually just the first season. Yeah, since this is so short, it only adapted season 1, but then again, it might have been worse if it adapted season 2 as well. This is a manga adaptation of just season 1, and it's a much worse way to experience it too. Seriously, what was the point of this? Also, what's even the point of the second manga if it's only slightly longer? I doubt it's any different, but I could be wrong. This manga accomplishes nothing. There's no reason for it to exist. Literally everything about it is worse than the anime. Actually, wait, no, I lied. There is one tiny thing that the manga does better. That being that we get to see the ISs drawn in 2D instead of them being shitty CG models. Now that would be pretty neat since the CG was one of the worst aspects of the anime. However, the ISs don't look that great here either, and the same goes for the art in general. The art ranges from looking passable to pretty shitty. Here's technically the first chapter, which is chapter 0. It's the only part of the manga that wasn't in the anime. It's just a short prologue that takes place before the series starts. It's nothing crazy. Well, that is except for its art. Nearly every character looks off here. Their proportions aren't right, their designs are weird, and they just look bad. Now, this is the first chapter, and it's not rare for a manga to start out with not so good art. Or even if a manga starts out with decent or good art, then it'll most likely improve as it continues. However, this is still pretty shit, especially since the quality doesn't improve that much. After the first couple chapters, the designs slowly turn into the designs that we're more familiar with, but they still never seem to reach the quality of the anime's designs. One of my biggest problems with the art is its consistency. Even though the art overall gets better, there are still chapters and pages that look significantly worse from previous ones. Here's the second and third pages from chapter 23. The designs aren't great, but they're at least decent. But then you keep reading and get to some pages that look notably different, and they're very jarring and distracting. Now, if you thought that wasn't too bad, then take a look at this. Here's the next chapter, chapter 24, and it looks like it was drawn by a completely different person. This looks like one of the earlier chapters again. It looks like someone smeared their shit all over the paper. Also, let's continue looking at this chapter and take a look at the fight scenes. The fights here are both better and worse than the ones in the anime. They're better because they take less time to get through since I read through them pretty fast. In the anime, a fair amount of the fights were a drag to get through, so at least they aren't as long here. However, they're also worse here because, like I've been saying this entire time, the art is ass! I have no idea what is going on in these panels half the time. There's usually too many explosions, shock waves, or bullets in one panel. It's also worse when two ISs are attacking each other in the same panel. The line work and colors never seem to distinguish and separate the two, so they just sort of blend in with each other. Unlike the designs, this is something that's a problem for the entire manga. Now, the fights were the worst part in the anime, but at least the characters and fan service moments sorta made up for it, so shouldn't the same apply in the manga? Unfortunately, no, it doesn't. Like I said, the manga is just season 1, but with much worse artwork and also faster paced. While the tighter pacing is better for the fights, it ends up being a big detriment for the fan service moments. A fair amount of fun scenes seem to be missing here, which sucks. Some of them are here, but even then, they aren't as enjoyable to read through. Just like with the manga in general, they're just a much worse version than their scenes from the anime. I guess one last thing I can talk about is its ending, which is really frustrating. It's the exact same as it was in the anime. It's a tub of horse sperm. I know I said I'd rather have the series never end since I hate Hoki, but come on. At the very least, just have them kiss and call it an ending. They knew this was the last chapter. Couldn't they at least make Hoki fans happy? What's the harm in doing so? With this ending, no one is happy. At least the anime got a second season, so at least there was some excuse for it there. But here it's just the author sticking a giant middle finger to the fans. He's like, yeah, fuck you, stupid Japs. Oh yeah, speaking of that, Obama says Japs in the first chapter, so, that's something, but I think that's about all I have to say for the first manga. It's not epic at all, and that's why I'm giving the manga a 4.52 out of 10. Like I said, if the second manga ever gets fully translated and dumped online, then maybe I'll make a follow-up review on it. I plan on doing follow-up manga reviews for series such as Vampire, Yamada and the Seven Witches, and Kiss X Sis, but I think that wraps up this review. If you liked it, then leave a like, comment, share, follow me on Twitter, or support me on Patreon. You can also subscribe if you're looking forward to my 7-hour-long review of Heaven's Lost Property. Anyway, that's it for this video. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to take a dump on Susan Wachkichi's porch.